My name is Holly Griffin. I'm a single mom, and I thought I'd seen the worst my family could do until that Monday night. The phone rang while I was cleaning up after dinner. My younger brother's name flashed on the screen. He didn't even say hello. Holly. Listen, Cole's 5th grade graduation party is going to be huge. We booked the entire country club live band, the works. I smiled, waiting for the invitation. It never came. Then his voice dropped ice cold. Just so we're clear, you can come if you want, but Kennedy, leave her home. She's not important enough to be part of Cole's big day. I froze. He said it like he was telling me the weather. My 12-year-old daughter, his niece, wasn't important enough. I heard myself ask, "Did you really just say that about my child?" He laughed short and sharp. "It's Cole's moment. Don't make it weird." Click. Line dead. I stood there holding the phone, heart pounding so hard I thought it would break a rib. That was the exact second I knew someone was going to pay for those words, and it wasn't going to be my daughter. If you've ever had family, treat your kid like they don't matter. Smash that like button and subscribe, because what happened next left every single one of them speechless. You're not going to believe how far this went. When the call ended, I just sat there on the sofa staring at the black screen. Kennedy wandered in from the kitchen, earbuds dangling, carrying a glass of water. She was 12 tall for her age, and already too good at reading my face. She set the glass down and dropped beside me without asking what was wrong. I took a breath that felt like dragging air through broken glass. "Sweetheart, Uncle Garrett just called about Cole's 5th grade graduation party. He doesn't want you there." Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. She nodded once, slow, like she'd been expecting something like this her whole life. Then her fingers found the sleeve of my hoodie and twisted it so hard the fabric went white under her knuckles. I pulled out my phone and typed the shortest message I could manage. "To Garrett. We won't be coming. Sent." I barely had time to lock the screen before Mom's name lit up. I put it on speaker so I wouldn't have to repeat a single word later. "Holly Marie Griffin." She started using my full name the way she only does when she's already decided I'm wrong. "Garrett says you're making a scene over a children's party." I closed my eyes. He told my daughter she isn't important enough to attend Mom. That's the scene. Oh, please. He's excited. Cole's the youngest grandchild. You know how your brother gets when it's about his kid. Don't turn this into World War III. Kennedy's grip tightened. I covered her hand with mine. "I'm not turning anything into anything," I said, voice flat. "I'm keeping my daughter away from people who think she's disposable." Mom huffed. "You were always the sensitive one. Let it go, Holly. For family." She hung up before I could answer. The family group chat exploded 30 seconds later. Bridget was first, of course. "Bridget, wow. Boycotting a 5th grade graduation party, real mature, Holly. Bridget, Cole's been looking forward to this for months. Stop being petty. Bridget, Garrett said you decided Kennedy shouldn't come. Don't rewrite history." I stared at the messages stacking up. He'd already flipped the script. A cousin posted the eye roll emoji. Someone else dropped a gif of a toddler throwing a tantrum. Dad stayed quiet. That silence was louder than any text. Kennedy read over my shoulder. "They think I didn't want to go." Her voice was small, cracked right down the middle. I turned the phone face down. "They believe whatever's easiest, baby." She leaned into me, head against my arm. "I don't even like country clubs." But her shoulders started shaking anyway. I muted every notification, turned the ringer off, and let the house fall into total silence. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums. We stayed like that for a long time. She didn't cry out loud. She just breathed fast and shallow until she wore herself out. Eventually she whispered, "Do they love Cole more than me?" I swallowed the rock in my throat. "Some people love loud, sweetheart. Doesn't make it real love, and it sure doesn't make you worth less." She didn't answer, just curled tighter against my side. I thought about every Christmas where Cole got the bigger pile of gifts because he's the baby, Every vacation where Garrett changed plans last minute and everyone shrugged. That's just Garrett. Every time Mom said, "You're the oldest Holly. You understand," like understanding meant swallowing whatever they threw at me. I was done swallowing. Kennedy fell asleep, still clutching my sleeve like it was a lifeline. I carried her to bed, tucked the blanket around her shoulders, and stood in the doorway longer than I should have. When I came back to the living room, the house was dark, except for the streetlight cutting through the blinds. I picked up my phone again. One new voicemail from Mom. I deleted it without listening. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It was sharp. It was clear. They had just taught my daughter where she ranked in this family. I was about to teach them where I ranked. A week went by faster than I expected. Thursday night, the doorbell rang while I was folding laundry. A courier in a navy blazer stood there holding a thick cream envelope sealed with real gold wax. The country club's logo was embossed in the corner. My name was printed in elegant raised lettering, Ms. Holly Griffin. Nothing else. No +1. No, and Kennedy. I signed for it, closed the door, and left the envelope on the kitchen island like it might bite. Kennedy walked in 5 minutes later, fresh from shower hair still damp. She spotted it immediately. "That's the invitation, right?" She tried to sound curious instead of hopeful. I nodded. She picked it up, ran her thumb across the seal, then carefully opened it. The card inside was heavy stock navy border gold foil lettering. She read it once, twice, then set it down exactly where it had been. "Just you," she said, voice flat, eyes on the marble countertop. I stayed quiet. There was nothing to add. That night, she barely touched her dinner. Afterward, she disappeared to the couch with her phone and a blanket pulled up to her chin. I was loading the dishwasher when I heard her sharp inhale. I dried my hands and walked over. "What is it?" She turned the screen toward me without a word. Cole had posted a full Instagram story takeover. Slide 1, him standing under the country club's stone archway in a tailored navy blazer, caption "Graduation weekend loading." Slide 2, drone footage of the clubhouse at golden hour, fairy lights twinkling across the patio, text overlay, "This is gonna be legendary." Slide 3, close-up of the gift table, already overflowing boxes from Nordstrom Apple, even a shiny new gaming laptop half unwrapped. Slide 4, Cole and 6 friends in matching sunglasses, arms slung around shoulders, caption, "My people. Best squad ever." Slide 5, Sierra's video of Cole walking the practice green, while parents clapped, caption, "Our baby is all grown up, so proud." Slide 6, Cole holding a massive foil balloon shaped like a diploma that read, "Class of 2030, Future CEO." Kennedy's thumb stopped on the final slide. Cole grinning next to a life-size cardboard cutout of himself in a cap and gown, caption, "Thank you to everyone who's part of making this the biggest day of my life." She lowered the phone slowly. "I guess I'm not part of it," she said so quietly I almost missed it. I reached for her shoulder, but she shifted away just enough. "Mom," she whispered, staring at the blank screen, "what did I ever do to them?" The question wasn't loud. It was small, broken, and it hit me like a fist to the chest. "Nothing," I said. My voice cracked on the single word. She gave the tiniest shrug. "I'm almost 13. I know how this works. If you're not invited, it's because they don't want you there." Every comforting lie I'd ever told her about family flashed through my mind and died. She stood up, blanket slipping to the floor. "I've got a history project due tomorrow." She walked to her room and closed the door with the softest click I'd ever heard. I stayed on the couch staring at the gold-sealed envelope glowing under the kitchen light like some kind of verdict. Hours later, I checked on her. She was asleep on top of the cover's phone, still clutched in her hand screen, dead. Cole's stories had played on loop until the battery gave out. I gently took the phone, closed Instagram, and set it on her nightstand. Then I stood in the doorway watching her breathe. The streetlight cut sharp lines across her face. She looked 10 years younger than 12. I thought about every time I'd told her family always shows up. Every time I'd said cousins are your first best friends. Every time I'd promised that blood means you're never alone. All of it lies. I walked back to the kitchen, picked up the invitation, and turned it over in my hands. The paper felt cold and expensive. Kennedy's name wasn't on it. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just a clean, quiet break. I was done pretending this was okay. Saturday arrived, the day of the graduation party. I woke Kennedy at 7, threw swimsuits, sunscreen, goggles, and a cooler of snacks into the car, and drove us 2 hours north to the giant indoor water park she'd been asking about for months. We spent the entire day screaming down the tallest slides, racing each other in the wave pool, floating the lazy river for hours, eating terrible nachos and soft-serve ice cream that melted faster than we could lick it, and laughing until our stomachs hurt and our voices went hoarse. For 9 straight hours, she was just a kid again. No phones, no invitations, no hurt feelings, no family drama. Just water sunshine through the glass roof and the two of us. By late afternoon, we were pink-shouldered, chlorine-scented, and perfectly happy. She fell asleep against the passenger window before we even left the parking lot, hair still dripping, mouth slightly open, one hand curled loosely on her lap. It was nearly 8:30 when we pulled into Mom's long driveway for the monthly family dinner nobody ever misses. The porch lights blazed, bright cars lined both sides of the street, and Garrett's brand new white Range Rover sat front and center like it had reserved the spot a year in advance. I touched Kennedy's shoulder gently. "Hey, Sleepy, we're here." She blinked awake, rubbed her eyes, hair plastered to one cheek. "Do we have to stay long? Just long enough to eat and be polite?" We walked in through the kitchen door that opened straight into the dining room. The table was already full. Mom stood at the head ladling gravy. Dad Wayne was carving the roast chicken at the far end. Bridget had claimed the seat closest to the wine bottle and was halfway through her 3rd glass. Sierra wore a new emerald silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Cole still had his little graduation medal clipped crookedly to his blazer collar, and Garrett sat in the center of it, all arms spread across the backs of 2 chairs, grinning like he'd just been crowned king of the universe. Every single head turned the second we stepped in. "Well, look who finally showed up," Mom called, waving a spoon dripping with gravy. "We saved you 2 spots right here." Kennedy hesitated half a step behind me. I squeezed her hand and led her to the empty chairs. Cole bounced in his seat. "Kennedy, they gave me a real medal." "Look." Bridget smirked over her glass. "Yeah, where were you guys all day?" The party was insane. Garrett tilted his head, fake concern dripping from every word. Holly said Kennedy had a stomach bug. "You look pretty energetic now." Kennedy's fingers went ice cold in mine. Mom slid 2 steaming plates in front of us. "Sit, eat." Cole was the star today. "Tell her about the Sunday bar, Cole." Cole launched in 20 toppings, confetti cannons, professional photographer following him around half the afternoon, drone flying overhead, principal giving him a special shout-out. Kennedy stared at her untouched mashed potatoes like they held the secrets of the universe. Sierra leaned forward, all sugar and silk. "We really missed you girls. Big days are better when the whole family's together." Bridget snorted loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Some people just can't handle not being the center of attention for once." Dad cleared his throat, the same warning he's used for 30 years, but nobody even glanced his way. Garrett chuckled. "Come on, guys." Holly decided all the excitement would be too much for Kennedy, right? He delivered it like the perfect punchline. The table laughed. Mom, Bridget, Sierra, even Dad cracked a reluctant smile. Kennedy's fork slipped from her fingers and clattered against the plate. Mom frowned. "You okay, honey?" Kennedy's face flushed dark red. She opened her mouth, but only a tiny broken sound came out. Cole still buzzing on leftover sugar, and attention kept going. They had a photographer following me the whole time. That was the last straw. Kennedy shoved her chair back so hard it screeched across the hardwood. She stood, eyes already spilling over, and bolted through the kitchen past the fridge covered in 30 years of family photos out the side door onto the porch. The screen door slammed behind her like a gunshot. The dining room went dead silent. Bridget rolled her eyes. Drama queen. Mom reached toward the empty chair. Holly. I rose slowly, every eye in the room locked on me. Garrett smirked into his wine glass. Kids. Huh. So sensitive. I looked around the table at every adult who had just watched my 12-year-old daughter flee in tears and still found a way to laugh about it. Then I looked at Kennedy's empty chair, at the fork lying sideways in the mashed potatoes, at the untouched food going cold. Something inside me snapped clean in half. They would never make her feel small again. Watching my daughter disappear through that side door, I stood up slowly from the dining table. Every fork was frozen halfway to every mouth. Every wine glass hovered. The only sound was the tick of Mom's old wall clock and the faint thud of Kennedy's footsteps on the porch boards. My hand was shaking, but my voice came out like steel. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and scrolled to the contact saved simply as J. Chen, VC. I pressed call. Speaker on. It rang once. A calm, familiar voice answered, Holly. The entire table leaned forward as one. James, I said, loud and clear so the phone's tiny speaker carried every word into the dead silent room, the Series A with Garrett Harrison. Kill it. Right now. A half beat of silence on the line. Reason, James asked, professional as always. I locked eyes with Garrett. His face had already lost all color. Because the founder just proved in front of our entire family that he believes my 12-year-old daughter is worthless. I will not put $5 million behind someone who treats my child like garbage. Garrett's chair crashed backward as he shot to his feet. Holly, what the hell are you doing? James didn't miss a beat. Termination letter goes out in 60 seconds. Marked lead investor withdrawal. Irreconcilable conflict of values. Anything else? That's all I said and ended the call. The dining room detonated. Garrett lunged across the table, knocking over a water glass. Call him back right now. Sierra screamed high and sharp. That money is Cole's future. Bridget's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on Mom's hardwood floor. You're insane, Mom started, sobbing into her napkin. Holly, please. He's your brother. Dad slammed both palms on the table so hard the plates jumped. Holly Griffin, you get that man back on the phone this instant. I didn't move an inch. For 2 years, I said, voice perfectly steady, I have been the anonymous lead investor in Garrett's round. I demanded my name stay off every cap table, every pitch deck, every single email, so no one could ever accuse me of giving family a free ride. I was scheduled to sign the term sheet next Thursday. Garrett made a strangled sound. You're lying. Check your inbox, I said. James just blind copied me on the termination. 4 investors have already replied out in the last 45 seconds. Sierra collapsed back into her chair like someone had cut her strings. Cole stood in the doorway, confused metal still pinned crooked on his blazer. Dad Garrett ignored him, eyes locked on me in pure panic. You kept this secret for 2 years just to pull the rug out. Now I kept it secret so you could earn it on merit, I said. Tonight you proved you never deserved a single cent. Bridget's voice cracked. This is financial murder over a graduation party. No, I said. It's consequences for telling my daughter she doesn't belong. Mom reached for me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Holly, call him back. We'll fix everything. Please. I looked at the woman who raised me and felt nothing but ice. You had the chance to fix this the second she ran out crying. You laughed with him instead. Garrett dropped to his knees right there on Mom's dining room floor between the roast chicken and the gravy boat. Holly, I'm begging you. His voice broke on the last word. I looked down at my little brother on his knees in front of everyone who'd spent their lives telling me to let him win, and waited. He couldn't even glance toward the porch where Kennedy sat. That was all the answer I needed. I took one step back from the table. Garrett's voice turned raw. "You're killing everything I've built." "No, Garrett," I said perfectly, calm. "You killed this family the moment you decided my daughter wasn't important enough for your son's big day." I turned and walked out of the dining room, past the shattered glass and the spilled wine, past every wide-eyed face that suddenly realized the price of choosing sides. I found Kennedy exactly where I knew she'd be, curled on the top porch step, arms wrapped around her knees, crying so hard her whole body shook. I sat, pulled her into my lap like she was still small enough to carry, and held her while the shouting started inside Garrett's voice. Loudest, Mom sobbing, Bridget screaming my name. Kennedy whispered against my neck, voice tiny and cracked. "Did you really just do that?" I kissed the top of her wet hair. "Yes, baby." And I would do it again 1,000 times. The porch light flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the front yard. Inside, someone started pounding on the screen door, calling my name. I didn't turn around. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. I was making coffee when the first notification hit. Then another. Then a flood. I glanced at the screen. 47 missed calls, 23 voicemails, hundreds of texts. All from the same 4 people. The subject line of the newest email stopped me cold. From James Chen, subject official termination, Harrison Technologies Series A. I opened it. After careful consideration and in direct response to the lead investor's withdrawal, Apex Ventures is formally terminating the Series A term sheet with Harrison Technologies effective immediately. Primary reason: serious concerns regarding founder character and alignment with core family values of the partnership. Below it, a chain of forwarded replies from every other investor on the cap table. Out. Pulling my commitment. Regretfully withdrawing. Effective immediately, we are out. One by one, like dominoes. The phone rang again. Sierra's name. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. Mom. FaceTime. I declined. Then Bridget. A wall of text appeared. Bridget. You evil bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? Garrett hasn't slept in 48 hours. His entire company is collapsing because of your temper tantrum. You're proud of yourself. Destroying your own brother over a stupid party. I hope you rot. Another message, same thread. Bridget Cole asked why Aunt Holly hates him. How do you explain that to an 11-year-old? I set the phone face down on the counter. Kennedy walked in, still in pajamas, hair messy from sleep. She saw my face and stopped. Is it them? She asked quietly. I nodded. She climbed onto the stool beside me, pulled my phone over, and started scrolling through the notifications with the calm curiosity only kids can manage. Another FaceTime from Mom popped up. Kennedy watched it ring out. Sierra called again. Then Garrett. Then Mom again. Kennedy looked up at me, eyes wide but steady. They're really mad, huh? I managed a small laugh that didn't feel like laughing. Yeah. Really mad. She kept scrolling, then stopped on Bridget's last message, the one about Cole. Her face changed. Something hardened behind her eyes. She put the phone down, reached over and placed her small hand on my shoulder. Mom, she said, voice soft, but sure you did the right thing. I stared at her. It was the first time she'd ever said anything like that. Not are you sure? Not will they forgive us? Just those 6 words spoken like she already understood more about boundaries than most adults ever do. My eyes filled so fast I couldn't stop them. She climbed into my lap like she used to when she was little, wrapped her arms around my neck, and let me cry into her hair while the phone kept buzzing against the counter like an angry hornet trapped in a jar. When I could breathe again, I whispered, "Thank you, baby." She pulled back just enough to look at me. "I'm not a baby anymore," she said, half smiling through her own wet eyes. "And I'm not sorry. We left." The phone rang again, Garrett this time, the 10th call from him in 20 minutes. Kennedy reached over and pressed decline without hesitation. Then she turned off the ringer completely. The sudden silence felt like the first real peace we'd had in weeks. We sat there together at the kitchen island, coffee going cold, notifications finally muted, while the rest of the family screamed into a void that no longer included us. Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang nonstop. I was at the kitchen island finishing payroll for my own portfolio companies when the first burst came. 3 sharp rings, pause, 3 more, then a long press like someone had planted their palm on the button. Kennedy looked up from her laptop at the dining table. "Who's that?" I already knew. I walked to the front door and opened it just wide enough to see without inviting them inside. Garrett and Sierra stood on my porch looking like they'd been dragged through hell. Garrett's shirt was untucked, and wrinkled eyes, red-rimmed stubble covering half his face. Sierra's hair was in a messy knot, mascara, smudged into dark circles, no trace of her usual designer armor. Garrett tried to step forward. I didn't budge. "Holly," he rasped, voice raw. "We need to talk, please." Sierra's hands were clasped so tight her knuckles were white. 5 minutes. That's all. I kept my hand on the door. Kennedy's doing homework 10 feet away. Garrett swallowed hard. "We know. We're desperate." Sierra's voice cracked. "The company is gone. Investors pulled out within hours. Employees are already leaving. We're going to lose the house, Cole's school, everything." Garrett's eyes filled. "We're on the edge of bankruptcy. Please call James. Tell him it was a family fight that got out of hand. Tell him anything." Sierra nodded fast. "We'll sign whatever you want. We'll say whatever you need us to say. Just save the company." I studied them for a long, silent moment. Neither had asked how Kennedy was. Neither had said her name even once. I spoke quietly. "Where's your apology to my daughter?" Sierra blinked, thrown. "What, you heard me?" I said. "You came to my door begging for $5 million, but neither of you has asked about the 12-year-old sitting in the next room who cried herself to sleep because her uncle told her she wasn't important enough to attend his son's graduation party." Garrett opened his mouth, closed. It opened it again. Nothing came out. Sierra tried. "Holly, this is bigger than no." I cut in. "It's exactly that small. It's about a little girl who learned from her own family that she ranks dead last." Garrett's knees buckled. He dropped right there on my welcome mat, hands clasped in front of him. "I'm begging you," he whispered, tears spilling. "For Cole. For our family. Save us." Sierra knelt beside him, sobbing openly. "We'll lose everything we've worked for. Please." I looked down at my brother on his knees on my porch, crying like a child, and felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, nothing. I leaned forward just enough for them to hear. "Cole's future is not my daughter's responsibility," I said, voice calm and cold. "And neither is yours." Garrett looked up, eyes wild. "You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life." Sierra clutched his arm. "Holly." I stepped back inside. Garrett tried to stand. "Wait." I closed the door, softly, calmly. No slam. Just the quiet click of the lock sliding into place. Through the peephole, I watched them stay there another full minute, Garrett still on his knees, Sierra clutching his shoulders, both crying into the afternoon sun. Then they walked back to their car, heads down, got in, and drove away. I turned the deadbolt. I blocked every phone number that belonged to them. I removed them from every family chat, every shared album, every emergency contact list. I changed the gate code. From that day forward, Garrett and Sierra ceased to exist in our world. Kennedy never asked about them again, and they never once tried to reach her. Not a text. Not a birthday card. Not a single word. 8 months later, everything had changed. Garrett's startup officially filed Chapter 7 in February. The big house in the gated community went into foreclosure 3 weeks later. They sold it for less than they owed and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment 20 miles away. Cole switched from private school to the local public middle school. No more country club summers, no more designer backpacks. The monthly family dinners stopped existing. Mom tried to organize one in April, then again in June. Nobody showed up except Bridget, and even she left early. Mom still called every few weeks. I let most go to voicemail. When I did pick up, the conversations were short, polite, and empty. She never mentioned Garrett or Sierra by name anymore. She just asked about the weather and Kennedy's grades, then hung up like she was afraid to say the wrong thing. Bridget sent one last venomous text on Cole's 12th birthday, blaming me for him not getting the gaming laptop he wanted. I blocked her number that same day. Dad never called at all. Kennedy grew 3 inches over the summer. She made the honor roll, joined the debate team, and started volunteering at the animal shelter on Saturdays. She never once asked about her uncle, her aunt, or her cousin. Their names simply stopped coming up. One October evening, we were eating takeout on the back patio when she looked up from her phone and said completely out of the blue, "I'm glad we don't have to pretend anymore." I set my fork down. "Pretend what? That they actually cared," she said. "It's easier when people show you who they are. You don't waste time hoping they'll change." I stared at her. 13 years old and already wiser than half the adults I knew. "You okay with how everything turned out?" I asked. She shrugged, took a bite of fried rice, and answered with her mouth half full. "I have you. That's enough family for me." I felt my eyes sting, but I smiled anyway. Later that night, I walked past her room and saw her pinning a new photo to the corkboard above her desk, me and her at the water park from the day of the party, both sunburned and laughing arms around each other. No one else was in the picture. And that was perfectly fine. I never heard from Garrett or Sierra again. Not a text, not an email, not even a holiday card with Cole's school photo. They vanished from our lives as completely as if they'd never existed. Some people think I went too far. Some people think I should have found a way to forgive. I don't lose sleep over it. I sleep just fine, knowing my daughter will never again sit at a table where people laugh while she cries. I sleep just fine, knowing she's growing up, understanding that love isn't just a word people throw around when they want something. And I sleep just fine knowing that some doors have to slam shut forever so the right ones can finally open. Kennedy is happy. She is strong. She knows her worth. And that is worth more than any $5 million, any family dinner, any fake apology that never came. I never regretted a single second of it. Some doors close so better ones can open, and ours are wide open now.